one of the people we spoke to said that the Minister of Education rejected a proposal to have an engineering school in Panama. So all the engineers that we talked to were educated in the United States. Something that was interesting about the Panama Canal, it's different from what we see in the United States, is that they're just now starting to focus on preventative maintenance. It's something that is a little bit more expensive for the government to continually do this work. But the engineers have been pushing the Panamanian government to fund this. A lot of the population in Panama is focused around Panama City. Once you go outside of Panama City, there's a lot more farmers and more sparse population. Panama dress very similarly to people in the United States. T-shirts, jeans, tennis shoes. They follow a lot of the same styles as the United States. Panama is very risk adverse. It's hard to start a business in Panama. It seemed that one of the largest hurdles for people to start a business is the funds necessary to buy materials and machines. They use the dollar as their currency, so a lot of prices for food and for other things were pretty similar to what you would see in the States. Brazil, on the technical side, is a very interesting place. When we look back about 10 years ago, 10, 20 years, Brazil was really thriving in manufacturing. However, with globalization and greater impact from China, India, Japan, other places that are strong in manufacturing, Brazil is more focused on services now. However, the schools in Brazil, they have a lot of engineering schools, a really strong presence in training engineers. Just at Polytechnic, we saw they have like 5,000 undergrad engineering students with over 1,000 graduate students. So the demographics in Brazil are very interesting. The city of Sao Paulo is huge, around 23 million people. And also, the city of Sao Paulo has the second most offices of any city in the world after New York City. They have very high taxes, regulations on imports, and it makes it difficult for Brazilian companies to import materials into their country. A lot of businesses, to get these tax reductions, and they want to appeal to the Brazilian market, they station an office or part of their company in Brazil. We saw that with Latte Coeur. They are a French company, but they have an office here in Brazil to specifically target Embraer. It's very interesting because America doesn't face the same kind of government regulations with taxes and also bankruptcy laws. It's a lot easier for entrepreneurs to start up companies in the US compared to Brazil, where there's a chance of dying, as we heard from a few of our Brazilian friends, if you go bankrupt. Some things are the same as the US, but some things are very different. For example, we're on the highway in traffic and there's street vendors trying to sell us things every time we stop our car. We also were just walking to dinner and there's people rappelling from a highway overpass. We were at this soccer game and their fans could chant for an hour and a half straight, just nonstop. Everybody knew it, everybody was hyped. We saw Brazil had a huge emphasis on exercise, being active, a healthy lifestyle. Similar in the US, there are places like this, cities kind of dedicated to this. Boise, for example, has a lot of bike paths running through the city. Welcome to Chile. What a great place. So Chileans are on the hunt for startup companies. They're all about increasing their technical capacity. The government is highly involved in this process, and they give $40,000 grants, equity free, to companies within Chile or companies from outside of Chile that are looking to start up a business within Chile. Chile runs a little bit more on monochronic time. We saw that at the airport, that they were the only place where we boarded on time. We Saw many similarities with Utah. As we were leaving the city to go to Valparaiso, we saw lots of hills and mountains similar to Utah. In the city, there's lots of smog. Maybe they have some kind of inversion similar to Utah. We also saw that people were really well dressed in Chile. They wore collared shirts, nice pants, walking on the street. We didn't see many bright colors. The city had a very European feel, but at the same time, it was closer to an American feel than any of the other cities we visited in South America.
Most Argentines tend to live in the cities. In Buenos Aires alone, 37% of the population is in the urban center. We found out that the universities don't charge tuition, so they're many times overcrowded, and so wealthier families will send their children to either private schools or to the United States or Europe to be more technically trained. There's big cycles that the country goes through, and it makes it very difficult for small and medium-sized companies. We were also talking to a vendor at the FEMAC conference, and we learned that credit is almost impossible to get. So if your company wants to make improvements such as a new machine, it's nearly impossible unless you are a large corporation. This makes it very hard for anyone to start a business or maintain a small business, which is very different from both the United States and what we saw in Chile, where the government gives incentives to start companies. The feel of the city, it's very European feeling. It has many very old, large buildings with European architecture. We found a huge difference in the culture here in the United States of when and how they eat. And it takes a long time. The waiters aren't there every 5 seconds asking if you're done so they can get more people in. It's very much more of a social thing than just an eating thing. We also found that they take their siestas very seriously, and many times the restaurants that we went to, we'd go at a normal eating hour from the United States of 6 or 7, and the restaurants wouldn't open until 7:30, 8 at night. It's a very large old cemetery that was very different from what we would find in the United States. It had very large granite tombs that were intricately decorated and carved with statues on top, and it seemed as though the whole family was buried in a tomb for multiple generations.
Something that I am going to take from this trip is to really learn and find a company culture that fits me best.
I learned from this global product development class was how intertwined business, product development, and engineering are.
To sum it up, you really need to know the market and you need to know the government. In each of these different countries, there's different challenges that present themselves. And if you're going to be able to be a successful product developer, you'll have to know your environment.